back to the video here. I'm going to take this very fine grain sandpaper and go over very lightly, almost no pressure, trying to get rid of some of the sharp parts, some of the weaker parts, some parts you can even break off with your fingers, it's so weak. So after you've grouted, there will definitely be some sections that are weak that you want to get rid of before you paint. You can see the seam there with the second piece that lifts off to camouflage the filter. Tried to make sure that's kind of seamless. This is the fun part, mixing up some color. I've got basically bright orange mixed with brown, I think. Put it into a water bottle. Got a lot of water, mix it up so it's thin enough to work its way through the water bottle. And this is what I call the poor man's paint gun. So it's an easy way of, quick and easy way of painting the entire structure. And because of the water, you're going to get some weird transparency effects. So you want to make sure the color underneath before you started to do that was something that you didn't mind showing through. And with this project, I decided to have the color shift be a little more dramatic. If you do a search on the internet for canyon structures or red rock, you'll notice there's a lot of different colors usually within these types of projects. Something I've never really pursued, maybe just out of laziness. But so I've got some almost bleached looking rock going on there. So applying some detail as if that's the area where the rock separates from each other. Some dark brown. So this is something that you don't want to go too crazy with the detail, at least I'm not going to, because I'm going to cover a lot of this up with colored sand. Use colored sand at the end to sort of cover up the shininess. What I ended up deciding to do, this project is kind of patterned after the Grand Canyon's Havasuva Falls, which if you do a search for Havasuva Falls, you'll notice the ponds within that waterfall have this kind of turquoise look. I thought it looked nice and paradise-like. So I went ahead and painted all of where the water is going to appear, this sort of turquoise color. But you can obviously do this entire project in a gray rock motif, in which case the color would be different. So I've got that little device thing you created to tell me where the water lines are going to be. And how do I know where the water lines are going to be? Obviously, because I did those tests, make sure I knew exactly where they were going to end. And here's something I did to kind of try to make this look as if it's a large waterfall. Something synonymous if you do a search for waterfalls on the internet. Most of them, the larger ones anyway, not the backyard homemade waterfalls. The larger ones will have this white foam as a result of the sheer volume, speed, and pressure of the water that we really all associate with waterfalls. So something you can decide to do or not. So I've got it all painted here, and so from a distance it almost looks as if there's already water flowing through there already. So this is the stage of sealing it, and what I used, I've used a product I've used before called Shields All. It's an acrylic, 100% acrylic. I'm sure you could use another acrylic or type of acrylic. What I did was apply 4 coats of this over the entire structure and let each coat dry 48 hours or cure 48 hours in between. So Shields All is the consistency that it's thin enough to work its way through a water bottle. So you definitely don't want to thin this stuff down. And this is the fun stage of silicone. And this is part of the reason why I've got that verbal disclaimer going on in the beginning. If you've never worked with silicone before, it is an extremely strong chemical substance. What I've got is, obviously you can see I've got gloves on, but I've got a mask on, I've got airtight goggles on. And I've got this right next to a window. And in fact, if you're going to do this, you might want to think about doing this outside, or failing that, your garage. I didn't have a garage, so I've got this right next to an open window. Definitely something you want adequate ventilation for. Stuff is incredibly toxic when wet, but we can all agree that silicone is safe when cured. It's been the stuff sealing fish tanks for decades upon decades now, so. And it actually says on the bottle, food safe when cured. What I'm doing here is going above the water line about an inch, just to be safe. But yeah, like I say, you definitely want goggles with this stuff on, and you definitely want to air this out. What I would do is air this stuff out for about a week after you've finished, and you might want to take it into the bathtub and hose it down. Make sure it's clean, especially before you would put a critter in here. So what I did is obviously apply this to all of the areas that are going to be constantly submerged in water 24/7, 365. You want to really work this stuff in there. And if you're concerned, put 2 coats, let it dry for a week, and put another coat on. What I'm doing here is using some of that acrylic Shields-All over certain areas, taking some colored sand and applying that. This is just to try to offset the shininess that'll happen from the sealant. And the other thing it'll do is it'll give a critter traction to be able to climb up and down this fake rock. You can really get into some interesting color. It's sort of like painting with sand, because what it does is the sand sticks to the sealant and you'll brush off the excess later. So here I'm using obviously a light beige, put in some color there to match that paint color. What I decided to do with this one is put in some green growth just to add more detail to the project. It's really difficult to try to guide where this sand is going to go. So I'm trying to use a paintbrush and put a drop of the sealant on at a time and then try to sprinkle sand. You definitely want some plant-like growth around the waterfalls. So again, you can decide as to just how much detail you want to put into this thing. And do the exact same thing with the second piece that's camouflaging the water pump. And the last stage is you want to really brush away the loose sand, and there will be a ton of it. And again, you might take it into the bathtub and hose it down to make sure all that sand is gone. And there you have it, fake rock waterfall. So please do the proper research as to whether or not this would be appropriate for the pet you have, and do your own research for the materials. If you have any ideas, please leave a comment. Go to the contact page on the website. Thanks for watching.